We've had all kinds of correspondence with the White House on this broad subject relative to the Zwanitzer and the letter we got 2 days ago. We've not corresponded with the White House yet.
And
we will, we may. That's a decision we'll make. We have not engaged with the White House since the letter on the 25th of this month, 2 days ago. We're seeking documents from a private individual who I might add tried to destroy the evidence.
So I guess the question is, I guess the answer is no.
Since 2 days ago.
The answer is no.
The answer is since 2 days ago, I have not.
I'm not asking the question about since 2 days ago, although nothing.
That's when they first raised the concern.
Nothing prevented you from writing a letter within the last 2 days or reaching out to the White House before this.
Now you want me to be clairvoyant and read the White House's mind and write a letter before they tell us something?
What's the truth, patriots? Welcome back to Truth Pill, the channel where we bring you what the mainstream media is too afraid, too controlled, or too complicated to say out loud. Now, before we dive headfirst into one of the most revealing and frankly infuriating exchanges in recent congressional history, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to Truth Pill, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a dose of real, uncensored truth. Because, let's face it, Big Tech would love for this video to quietly disappear, but we're not going anywhere. And neither is the truth. Comment expose them if you're done with the lies. Share this with every patriot who still believes in accountability. And now, let's get to it. Today's story? It's a masterclass in hypocrisy, gaslighting, and institutional rot. A performance so jaw-dropping that even seasoned political watchers had to stop and say, did Adam Schiff really just go there? Yes, he did. You see, this isn't just another political spat. This is the story of Adam Schiff, the architect of the Russia collusion hoax, the man who spent years telling the American people that Donald Trump was secretly working for Vladimir Putin, without ever producing a shred of evidence, now lecturing Congressman Jim Jordan on proper procedure. Yes, really. This is the same Adam Schiff who read a completely fabricated phone call transcript into the Congressional record, as if it were fact. The same man who ran secret hearings in basement rooms, who leaked selective info to friendly press, and who made anonymous sources the gospel of cable news. Now, suddenly, he's the rulebook guy. Now he wants to talk about oversight decorum. The hypocrisy here doesn't just stink, it reeks. But hold on, it gets even worse. Because this entire clash is rooted in something much bigger than political grandstanding. It's about the one thing Washington elites hate most: real accountability. Jim Jordan, one of the very few remaining fighters in Congress who's actually willing to challenge the establishment, has been digging into what increasingly looks like yet another cover-up involving this administration. His committee issued a subpoena, a basic legal demand for documents. And not just any documents. These are records held by a private individual who might be sitting on damning information. That's called oversight. That's Congress doing its constitutional duty. That's what the American people expect their elected officials to do. But when this private citizen refused to comply, Jordan didn't flinch. He took the next logical step, moving toward a contempt citation. Because in a system that actually values law and order, you don't get to ignore a subpoena just because it's inconvenient for your political allies. So what does Adam Schiff do? He swoops in like a fog machine of distraction, claiming Jordan should have first gotten permission from the very White House that may be implicated in the documents themselves. Let that sink in. Schiff is arguing that Congress needs to ask the Biden administration for permission before investigating the Biden administration. That's not just backwards, it's dangerous. It's like asking a burglar if it's okay to open the safe. It's like needing a permission slip from the suspect before you launch an investigation. And the media? They'll spin it. They'll make Schiff look like the calm, reasonable adult in the room and paint Jordan as reckless. But the truth is far simpler. The cover-up is unraveling. And this entire meltdown is proof that certain people in Washington are terrified of what might come out if real oversight is allowed to proceed. This is just the beginning, and Truth Pill is going to be right here to walk you through every piece they try to bury. If you're tired of the games, the lies, and the double standards, like this video, subscribe to the channel and comment expose them so the algorithm knows the truth matters. And don't forget to share this with friends, family, and every fed-up American who deserves to know what's really going on. Because here at Truth Pill, we don't play nice with the narrative. We break it.
Mr. Chairman, much as I don't like certain parts of the Mazars decision, it clearly applies in this case, and the committee is required to engage with the White House in order to seek an accommodation over materials held by a private party, as they were in the Mazars case, and seek to resolve this with the White House. So I would ask unanimous consent that we enter into the record your correspondence to the White House.
Objection.
Seeking to engage them to resolve this. And I thank the chairman for not objecting. Can you produce that correspondence to the White House asking for accommodation on these materials you've sought by this subpoena?
First time they reached out to us was 2 days ago.
Yes, and of course, the author expressed the concern that these materials may implicate interests of the executive. I think that was weeks ago. But having admitted without dissent your correspondence to the White House, can you produce that for us, where you have sought an accommodation, where you've sought to work this out with the White House? Can you share that with us, since that is now part of the record?
Well, I thought you had it. You wanted to enter it into the record.
I do. I presume that, knowing your responsibilities, you have sought to engage the White House. So,
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Produce
Gentleman is
the.
recognized for point of order.
I think a unanimous consent request to submit something to the record is where the person who's asking for the floor is the proponent of submitting information that member has. I don't believe it's appropriate to ask a unanimous consent request to engage in a colloquy over discovering information or obtaining information from another member of the committee.
Great, and that's why I said that no objection to the unanimous consent request. If the gentleman from California wants to talk about that and present it to us, God bless him. He's allowed to do it. Takes 5 minutes.
I would like clarification from the chairman. Does this mean that there is no correspondence from you to the White House seeking accommodation on this material?
We've had all kinds of correspondence with the White House on this broad subject relative to the Zwanitzer and the letter we got 2 days ago. We've not corresponded with the White House yet. If we will, we may. That's a decision we'll make.
And you have not corresponded with the White House seeking accommodation ever since the author who you are subpoenaing and seeking to hold in contempt articulated the view that there was executive interest and potential privilege over this material. You haven't sought to engage over the weeks since you received that communication?
We have not engaged with the White House since the letter on the 25th of this month, 2 days ago.
And prior to that time, did you engage the White House in an effort to obtain these materials?
All kinds of engagements with our counsel and counsel.
I'm talking about
the Justice Department and White House with our counsel over the last several months relative to the special counsel
this subpoena, Mr. Chairman. Did you engage with the White House at any time in the last several weeks since issuing this subpoena, the one you want to hold this witness in contempt for? Did you ever engage with the White House in an effort to accommodate, an effort to reach an agreement, an effort to prevent this from having to be litigated? Did you ever write any correspondence, make any call to the White House seeking to engage, seeking to get these materials that you're seeking from the author instead from the White House? Did you ever do that, Mr. Chairman?
We're seeking documents from a private individual who, I might add, tried to destroy the evidence.
I guess the question is, I guess the answer is no. The answer is no.
The answer is, since 2 days ago, I'm not
asking the question about since 2 days ago, although nothing
That's when they first raised the concern.
Nothing prevented you from writing a letter within the last 2 days or reaching out to the White House before this.
Now you want me to be clairvoyant and read the White House's mind and write a letter before they tell us something?
Nothing prevented you from seeking these materials from the White House.
California is known
for months, Mr. Chairman. For months.
I'm not a mind reader.
And I thank you for making a very clean record for any court that will look at this.
The gentleman from North Carolina said
an accommodation
months ago the White House could have raised the concern, and they didn't.
These documents, because your first move, of course, is to go right to contempt. Ironically, of course, for a chairman who was in contempt of his own subpoena.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
We're still waiting for you to testify and meet the obligations of your own subpoena, Mr. Chairman. But nevertheless, I appreciate you're making such a clean record for any court in this case that you have never sought an accommodation, never written to the White House, never called the White House, never had a communication with the White House in order to obtain these materials as part of an accommodation. Thank you for that very clean record for the court, and I yield back.
So let's break this down, because the hypocrisy is almost too thick to cut with a chainsaw. Right when Congressman Jim Jordan is finally getting close to real answers, here comes Adam Schiff, the same man who once stood on the House floor and read a completely made-up transcript of a phone call, presenting fiction as fact, manipulating the public record like a bad novelist. And now he wants to lecture anyone about proper congressional procedure? You can't make this stuff up. Schiff's entire argument is a masterclass in misdirection. He's claiming that Jordan should have gone to the White House before subpoenaing documents from a private individual, not a government agency, not a staffer, but a private citizen. And why? Because, according to Schiff, the materials might contain something the executive branch cares about. Think about the absurdity of that logic. This would mean Congress can't even investigate unless they first get permission from the very people they might be investigating. That's not oversight. That's institutional surrender. It's like telling a bank robber, "Hey, before we open the vault, do you mind checking if there's any evidence of you in there?" It's letting the fox run background checks before we inspect the hen house. And to justify this nonsense, Schiff invokes the Mazars decision, a legal case involving Congress trying to access then-President Trump's personal financial records. That case was about a sitting president's private materials, not documents held by a private citizen under congressional scrutiny today. So let's be clear. What's happening here isn't a debate over law. It's a strategic fog bomb. Schiff is trying to take a very specific precedent meant for one situation and apply it everywhere to shut down any investigation that makes Democrats uncomfortable. That's the game. That's the playbook. When they can't defend the substance, they attack the process. When they can't disprove the evidence, they hide it behind procedure. And Schiff? He's been running this same script since 2017. Every time real accountability knocks on the door, he tries to change the locks. But Jordan wasn't fooled, and more importantly, he didn't back down. He calmly reminded the committee that, yes, his team has been engaged in ongoing communications with the Justice Department and White House legal teams for months. There has been outreach. There has been dialogue. Just not on this specific document. Not until 2 days ago, when a concern was first officially raised. That's when Schiff pounced, treating the timing like a gotcha moment. But here's the truth. If a private citizen sits on subpoenaed documents for weeks, says nothing, then suddenly throws up an executive privilege flag 2 days before a contempt hearing, that's not good faith. That's delay. That's a stall tactic designed to run out the clock. And Schiff is playing right into it. Even worse, he didn't stop at misdirection. Schiff took it personal. He accused Jim Jordan of hypocrisy by referencing a subpoena Jordan himself supposedly didn't comply with, trying to frame Jordan as the real problem here. This is the same Adam Schiff, mind you, who claimed for years he had concrete evidence of Russian collusion, leaked classified information to a willing press corps, ran secret impeachment hearings in a basement, blocking Republican witnesses and controlling the narrative like a Cold War propagandist. And he wants to talk about transparency? It's laughable, but also terrifying. Because what Schiff is really doing here is shielding the administration from oversight. Not because he believes in procedure, but because he knows what might be hiding in those documents. He knows that if these records are made public, the scandal could be enormous. So instead of demanding accountability, he's building a wall of procedural red tape. And here's where things take an even darker turn. Jim Jordan revealed that the individual being subpoenaed may have tried to destroy documents Congress legally requested. That is potentially obstruction of justice. And Schiff's response? Not outrage, not concern, just more procedural smokescreens. Let that sink in. We have allegations of evidence destruction, and instead of fighting to protect the truth, Adam Schiff is more focused on protecting the administration's image, more worried about shielding political allies than preserving the rule of law. This entire exchange exposes the two-tier system of justice we're now living under. Because, let's be honest, when Democrats are in power, they issue subpoenas like candy, no accommodation process, no worries about privilege. They demand documents, they haul people in, they hold officials in contempt, and the media cheers them on. But now, when the script flips and they might be the ones under investigation, suddenly everything needs to go through a months-long legal negotiation. Suddenly, subpoenas are partisan. Suddenly, oversight is an attack on democracy. It's a joke, and it's wearing thin. Because here's the bottom line. Executive privilege was never meant to be a shield for wrongdoing. It was never intended to hide misconduct. And yet, this administration has invoked it more aggressively than any in recent history. From border policies to energy failures, they're using privilege not to protect sensitive communications, but to bury the truth. Jim Jordan isn't playing that game. He's not flinching. He's following the evidence wherever it leads, even if it makes the people in power squirm. That's real oversight. That's what members of Congress are elected to do. And that's why the establishment is terrified. Before we move on, make sure you're subscribed to Truth Pill. Hit that bell. Smash that like. Comment accountability now if you're done watching corrupt officials dodge responsibility. And most importantly, share this video with every patriot you know who refuses to be gaslit by the media. This is about more than political theater. It's about whether we still have a functioning system of checks and balances, or whether that too has been sacrificed to protect the powerful. And this is just the beginning. If you want to know what panic looks like in Washington, just look at Adam Schiff's performance. Because that wasn't a confident leader up there. That was a man scrambling, clinging to procedure, drowning in legal jargon, and desperate to control a narrative that's already slipping away. He knows what's coming. The Democrats know. Real investigations are finally beginning. Years of obstruction, misdirection, and narrative control are breaking down. And the truth they fought so hard to bury is starting to rise to the surface. So what's the play? Delay, distract, discredit. That's why Schiff kept repeating almost obsessively that he was creating a clean record for the court. He's not focused on transparency. He's not trying to inform the American people. He's preparing legal speed bumps, roadblocks designed to stall investigations until the public forgets or the statute of limitations runs out. This is the exact swamp behavior President Trump warned about, the DC machine that operates in the shadows, where party comes before people, and power is preserved at any cost. But Jim Jordan, he represents something different. He represents the idea that oversight still matters. The Congress doesn't serve the administration. It serves the people. That accountability isn't optional. It's a constitutional obligation. And the American people have every right to know the truth about how their government operates. The media won't tell you that. They'll paint Jordan as extreme. They'll twist the narrative to make Schiff look like the reasonable one, the adult in the room just trying to keep things civil. But let's be honest, you saw what happened. You watched the exchange. You don't need the media to interpret it for you. Because what's happening right now? It's part of a much bigger pattern. For years, entrenched officials and their media allies have used every procedural trick in the book to dodge real accountability. They've leaked classified info to spin narratives. They've planted anonymous sources to create scandals out of thin air. And when they are finally cornered, they hide behind executive privilege, pretending oversight is somehow inappropriate or dangerous. The American people are fed up. We're tired of the double standard. Tired of watching one side get away with everything, while the other is hunted down for technicalities. We're tired of seeing innocent people dragged through the mud while the politically protected destroy documents, dodge subpoenas, and get away with it. That's why this moment matters. Because Jim Jordan is doing what we elected him to do. He's asking the hard questions. He's demanding answers. And he's doing it despite relentless pushback from the political establishment, the media, and every swamp creature that benefits from the status quo. And let's not forget the most damning detail of all. The individual being subpoenaed may have attempted to destroy documents, evidence Congress legally requested. Innocent people don't do that. People with nothing to hide don't panic over subpoenas. This isn't just oversight. This is exposing a cover-up in real time. And it's also a powerful reminder of why elections matter. Because if we didn't have fighters like Jim Jordan in Congress right now, none of this would be happening. The truth would be buried, the corruption would continue unchecked, and the American people, we'd be left in the dark, again. But thanks to the 2022 midterms, we now have real oversight for the first time in years. We have people in positions of power who aren't afraid to shine a light into the shadows and demand answers, no matter how uncomfortable they may be for the political elite. Patriots, this is our moment. This is where we find out whether our system of checks and balances still works, or whether we've already crossed the line into a government that answers to no one. The outcome of investigations like this one will determine whether we still live in a republic, or something else entirely. So here's what you can do. Stay informed, speak out, share this video. Don't let the media gaslight you into thinking that truth is dangerous, or that oversight is obstruction. This is exactly what Congress is supposed to do, and it's exactly what Jim Jordan is doing. And here at Truth Pill, we're going to keep following this story every step of the way. We'll bring you the facts the corporate media refuses to cover, and we'll make sure you never miss the real story behind the headlines. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, comment, stand strong if you believe in accountability, and share this with every American who's ready to fight for the truth. Because the swamp is fighting back. They know their grip on power depends on keeping us misinformed. But together, we can break through the noise. We can expose the lies, and we can restore a government of the people, by the people and for the people. Thanks for watching Truth Pill. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. We'll see you in the next one.